As the opening prayer of Mass today indicated to you without announcement, we are celebrating the feast of the presentation of the Lord today. That's the day on which the parents of Jesus brought their child to the temple to dedicate him in his membership among God's people, to fulfill the law, to do what was required. That's exactly my thought. She's heard me preach before. That's Addison. They were greeted there by a prophet, consoling, comfort, eloquent preaching. I'm thinking that's where this parallel is going to fall down today. Our mom has brought us to this holy temple today, that we might perform for her the customs of our faith, confirming our participation in the mystery of Christ's death and resurrection, to commend her to the temple of God's children in heaven, that we might be consoled by our faith. In typical fashion, on this Sunday morning, the day she died, my mom decided to help me talk through what she knew was going to be a difficult task, and this was typical Pat Estok. So she says to me, is Larry, that would be Father Jersak here in the sanctuary, who preached my father's funeral homily, Mass, 30 years ago, just this past June. She says, Larry going to help you with the homily? Okay, Ma. I said, well, I've been thinking about that. No, I think I have to do it. After all, I am a 60-year-old grown-up man, and I can't very well sit in a puddle in the sanctuary while somebody else preaches my mother's funeral homily, can I? She says, yeah, I guess not. So then, again, as usual, and as she had done countless times in my life, she decided, and I think in all of our lives, she decided to help me think through it. And maybe even give me a little help. So she said, well, if this is the case, you remember that beautiful homily that Bishop Pilla gave at his mother's funeral? I said, yes. She said, you could just give that one. She said, it was so nice. And then she, of course, humbly added, but of course you'd really have to take out all that stuff about cooking. Because she didn't cook. We laughed. So, Ma, here we go. On behalf of my sister Cindy, who just proclaimed the second reading, her brother and my brother-in-law Joe, her husband, their children Liz and Jay Kozar, EJ, Kathleen, Emily, and the star of every moment of our lives, as you just realized she stole my thunder, the great-grandchild Addie. I want to thank all of you for being with us today to celebrate this beautiful Mass of Christian burial for the rock in the center of our family, Patricia and Jenaway Estok, our mom, who everybody at home calls Meemaw. Elizabeth started that 30 years ago. Special thanks to Bishop Pilla, of course, my dear friend, Father Jersak, Father Gary Yanis, the Vicar General of the diocese, and representing certainly Bishop Perez today, and my brother priests and deacons, and sisters, religious sisters. I know there are many of you here. For honoring our mom today and helping her today with your offering of this Mass and your support of us in our grief. Mom so relied throughout my entire priestly life, for sure, on the prayers and the kindness of so many of you throughout the many years. As the prophet Isaiah reminded us in the first reading today, a mother is not likely to forget her children. And we are here today as Mima's family and friends to say what is probably obvious, that it would be impossible for us, her children, to ever forget her. She is a giant, and I guess every mother is, but she's a giant in our lives. As Pat has been carved onto the palm of God's hand, according to the prophet's words today, so has her blessed memory been engraved on our hearts. Our reflections and our memories of Mom's life have appeared to us, or at least to me, as less like a photo album of happy events, and more like a collection of maps, an atlas, if you will. You see, what we remember most about Mom is less about what she did, and she did a lot, as you all are aware, but as much as how she deliberately chose to walk through life's difficulties with a joyful satisfaction. Our Mom, through trust in God, repeatedly encountered obstacles on her life's path, and what appeared as almost miraculous ease, she very intentionally adjusted in the face of each one. She simply and courageously chose to change the direction in which she was looking for happiness. And then she stepped forward, putting another foot in front of the other, as she said. She described this graceful ability in a bit of a kitchen philosophy in a quip that she repeated often. Gotta play the hand you're dealt. She'd fill in that little quip with, and don't waste too much time complaining, and definitely have a little fun when you can. Although she was a distinguished and eloquent professor of nursing and nursing research, she was a researcher. She published over 40 academic papers and articles. She chose to teach us this fundamental skill of adapting for the sake of joy and satisfaction. She taught it to us, and not so much with sophisticated words, but by example, with almost stunning courage, always. Whether professionally, personally, especially with the death of our young dad, which is getting younger all the time now that I just turned 60, as he died on his 60th birthday, and primarily in the years-long battle against metastatic breast cancer. Instead of teaching us her powerful adjustment strategy, she shepherded us, meaning she simply walked forward along a new and treacherous path with courage and satisfaction, all the while nudging us along to tell us to do, and nudging us along to do what she was doing, to follow the way that she was walking. She was a real shepherd of our hearts. And this shepherd, like the famed biblical shepherds, was tough, but so elegant and resilient. I like to think of a steel magnolia, stolen from that movie several years ago. Cast iron, camouflaged by grace and a smile. My sister and the grandkids describe her as their hero. Mom's style and disciplined manner of walking life's journey is recognizable to any of you, and I know so many of you are familiar with the saints of the Christian church. I think we call it conversion of life. It's not something Mom created, far from it. It was just her contemporary version of maybe abandonment to divine providence, or the little way of St. Therese, or just plain surrender to the will of God in the imperfect moment. In fact, Pat, the shepherd of our hearts, was teaching us in imitation, obviously, of another good shepherd himself. In today's gospel, we had a perfect display. He commanded that we love one another, and then he finishes, as I have loved you. He made concrete his teaching by holding up the example of his life. Pat taught us by a persevering life marked with joy. One of Mom's favorite tools for adapting to life's tough stuff was the rosary, especially during medical treatments. She said, "In my mind, I simply go far away from the discomfort, and I pray there, like it was a location. Hail Mary, Hail Mary." Recently, she talked about her little method when she said, "It doesn't matter, by the way, what day of the week it is. I always pray the sorrowful mysteries." There it is. One can see that in that clearer light of what she was praying, that her deliberate adjustments to challenges in life really do reflect the mysteries of Christ. Agony, surrender, bodily torture, bearing the cross, confidence in the promise of the merciful God, a face turned firmly toward the next, the necessary, the unavoidable, and now the doable. The way of Christ's cross with elegance and joy. Pretty sweet. What a grace and inspiration. This path and process, this shepherding of our hearts, was never on fuller display than last Wednesday, January 23rd, when her much-beloved Dr. Silverman, who had treated her so gently and successfully for so long with this cancer, she gently convinced my mother that she was dying. When we got home to Cindy's house, she said to us both, "Well, I told God," I was okay, "I told God that if I have to die from this, let's get it over with." Oh, I said, "Okay, Ma. Okay." There it is. We knew what she was doing. We saw her. She saw things clearly as they were. She accepted it. She adjusted her game plan and took the next and necessary step on her journey, trusting in God, believing that it was, in fact, doable. She walked through it. And oh yeah, no complaining, no whining. Comb your hair. Did you ever see my mother without her hair combed? My brother-in-law said he'd been married to my sister for 35 years, and about 3 months ago was the first time he ever saw her without her hair combed. And laugh anytime you can help others get through it with you. That's how she always did it. And that's exactly what she did. After precisely a 4-day, pain-free, lightning-paced decline, she gently escaped from this valley of tears in what the beautiful Holy Family Hospice nurses said was unprecedented efficiency. Play the hand you're dealt, pray, don't complain, comb your hair, and laugh a little if you can. When Pat did get it over with, and she put this last and awesome battle down, my sister almost immediately quoted her about her, St. Paul's words to Timothy, "I've run the race, I've competed well, I have kept the faith." And we are so proud of our mom's accomplishments and virtues because with generosity and determination, she did run the race. With courage and class, she competed well. And through all of it, she not only kept the faith herself, but by example deepened ours. Well done, good and faithful servant and shepherd of our hearts. Inherit the crown of righteousness that awaits you. I'd be remiss not to mention what Mom always acknowledged, and that is that she was able to do what she did in life, was prepared to do it, and thrived in the many ways that she did because of the great love and support of our dad. They were a great pair. And although he died 30 years ago, we have heard in these days so many memories of not just my mom, but my mom and dad together. You know, putting each other through graduate school while raising 2 little kids, working night shifts and half time so the house could keep going, dedication and service in the community their whole lives, especially to education, praying in the church, devoted to us kids and grandkids, celebrating life with great fun with cherished neighbors and friends, walking on the beach in Florida, dancing and enjoying a glass of wine. They lived life well. My dad always said of my mother, until the day he died, quite frankly, so 33 years after the event, he always referred to her, "Oh, Pat's a convert," he would tell everybody, referring to her conversion to Catholicism before their 1955 wedding. He also said that, in spite of being a convert, she was the best Catholic in the family. And what he meant by that is that my mom knew the rules, my mom kept the rules, and she nudged us, especially my father, to keep the rules as well. A good shepherd of our hearts. Mom liked rules in every aspect of life, not just in church. We had the rule about language in the family. And being a nurse, she insisted that we always use the correct anatomical and biological terms, which made us laugh. She had rules about not abusing medicine. Okay, now we're talking about Advil here. Right? Not even her beloved son-in-law, Dr. Joe the dentist, could convince her to take one more Advil than the back of the bottle instructed. She had rules for golf. I don't know where my golf buddies are. She was my regular. Imagine, brothers, there are no such things in Pat world as mulligans or gimmies. As she said to me regularly on the golf course, "You know, that's just cheating." She had rules about food. In a restaurant, without fail, the minute, I'm not kidding you, the minute the server put her plate down in front of her, she would say, "I'll need a box for that." She hadn't even touched it. She never ate more than half the food that was set in front of her. She had a rule about the serving sizes of dessert, as if there is actually a measurable portion of a piece of dessert called a sliver. And none of us have ever quite cut it close enough to the standard. It was always too much. "Oh, I can't eat that." She had a rule about the hour of day when it was permissible to have a glass of her favorite Chardonnay, especially if one is alone. She always celebrated Wednesday as day off because it was permissible to break that rule when you were not alone. Casino rules. Yeah. And some of you have run into her there. There are 4 slot machines at that Northfield casino that pay more prizes than any of the others. And she had to go to all 4 of them. And this last one just baffled me. In 2001, my mom moved from Solon in the Diocese of Cleveland to Aurora in the Diocese of Youngstown. So the priest, you'll know what she's up to here. And she joined the Catholic parish in Youngstown. She changed her domicile, as we say in the law. After a couple of years, she told me that she was still sending an envelope to St. Rita in Solon. I said, "Well, Ma, I'm sure Father Birchall appreciates that," but I kind of realized that she was giving me an object lesson here. She wanted me to ask. I said, why are you doing that? She said, "Well, I'll tell you why. Because I want to make sure when I'm dead, you can have my funeral mass in a church in the Diocese of Cleveland." Now, I don't want to say, at this time, I was the secretary to the bishop of the Diocese of Cleveland. Wow. She knew the rules, she kept the rules, and she didn't want me to have to break a rule on behalf of her bad planning. My parents were quite a pair. They were great parents. The greatest gift, as Bishop Pilla always said, and I say of mine, the greatest gift that God can give to children. My parents' love affair began on a fateful New Year's Eve in 1952 at the American Legion Hall in the small coal mining town of Fredericktown, Pennsylvania, where they both grew up. Mom was sitting at a table, and a man came and greeted her, which she mistaken as an invitation to dance. So, when she stood up and stepped onto the dance floor unaccompanied, my observant dad, 5 years her senior, saw his chance. He glided onto the dance floor, hand extended, and said, "I'll dance with you." Last Sunday evening at 7 p.m., my sister and I imagined that New Year's Eve scene being replayed in heaven as Pat slipped ever so peacefully through the fingers of this passing world's grasp and was greeted by the Lord Jesus himself, impersonating none other than Big Ed. His hand extended, smiling broadly as he could, saying, "I'll dance with you." She had longed for him for 30 years now, and she hoped for this reunion. I'm so grateful to God and trusting in his mercy that reunion hope was fulfilled so sweetly. You know, she loved to dance. Maybe a dance is the best way to capture the gift of my mom's faith, determination, and freedom to adapt and adjust. Instead of grieving her losses, instead of resenting the blessings and the health of others, instead of giving up on having a meaningful life, Mom chose to dance with her difficulties. You know, when you engage in such a dance, you can learn new and necessary moves. Moves that can bring you new and surprising joy. And if not joy, maybe something more important, peaceful satisfaction that you have competed well. When we stop resisting and rather embrace the unexpected, the unfair, the life-changing surprises and pains of life, we can find a new life and freedom on our journey. And that is Pat's example and invitation to all of us. I think it's very likely God's call for each of us today here. In a final example of how our mom shepherded us through the dangerous stretches of life's journey, on Sunday morning, the day she died, she was talking to Cindy and me individually. So we had a great morning, if you will. But, of course, we were talking about, and what she was talking about, was anticipating meeting my dad again, her dad, her dear sister and friend Jackie. You all remember Aunt Jackie. I started to cry a bit as she spoke of that grand reunion, which, as you see, is my typical response to these sad thoughts. She noticed. She turned to me and she said, "It'll be okay." And I recognized what she was up to. As always, I said, "Ma, yeah, I'll be okay." I quickly reconsidered. I said, "Ma, I lied. I don't think I'm going to be okay." And you know what happened? She got that very familiar look on her face and that determined sound in her voice, and gently said, "You will be okay." Not convinced that I was believing her, obviously, because I was doing this, she took me back to Dr. Estok School. She shepherded my heart tenderly but deftly, she said, "Eddie, remember when Daddy died? I thought life would never be good again. And it was rough for a while. But look, I was okay. Better than okay. It was good. A good life. A full life. A fun life. We chose to make it okay." There it is. "It will be tough in the beginning, but you'll be okay." And I obediently said through my tears, like this, "Okay, Mom, I will be okay." So there you have it. Play the hand you're dealt. No use complaining. Pray. Comb your hair. So you probably wonder, where does he get this with this hair? It's like, comb your hair and have a little fun as you can. My friends, maybe Pat's great run in this race of life, her manner of shepherding our hearts can be a grace for all of us today. So I just ask you to join me in considering your life today. What obstacle? What pain? What loss has come across your path? What are you fighting against in life that cannot be avoided? What are you complaining about, stewing about in your sadness, in anger, resentment, and oh yes, especially fear? Well, let's listen to this shepherd of hearts, this good Dr. Estok. Pray and adjust. Let's accept it as the hand we've been dealt. And then let's get busy, as she did, working it into our new strategy for winning the battle for a meaningful and a joyful life. I think this better be my pledge and promise in front of all of you today, since obviously last Sunday my mom pointed out to me that I hadn't quite really gotten on board yet. Maybe the grace of this painful goodbye today can set all of us onto a more courageous and joyful path to a meaningful life, as Pat so many times set herself onto such a path through life. I know that Pat would like to see more of that courage and joyful satisfaction in my life and in several of yours. And by doing so and holding on to each other's hand, I think we can be okay. I think we could be better than okay. And with the Lord Jesus, Pat has shown me it can be okay. Play the hand you're dealt. No use complaining. Pray. Comb your hair. And have a little fun as you can. Thank you for offering this great prayer of Christ's death and resurrection for our dear mom, Mima, Patricia Jenaway Estok. May her soul and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest